Hey guys, it's Willing Away, and welcome back to reading more SCP files. So this is part 4, which means we're covering, I believe it's 31 to 40. Yes, 31 to 40. But yeah, I have nothing else to say. Sorry this came out late. I've been sick for the past couple of weeks, but I hope you guys enjoy. Item number SCP-031, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-031 is currently contained in the Rygyong Hotel located in the city of Pyongyang, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. As the nation it is located in is currently governed by an authoritarian regime with near-complete control of state and national media, the possibility of information regarding SCP-031 being released to the world at large is minimal. As said regime is also cooperating with the Foundation in order to maintain physical security of the site, Foundation personnel are instructed to comply with their directives so long as they do not interfere with the larger Foundation aims. The structure of the Ryugyong Hotel serves to contain SCP-031 within the central spire. 3 secondary spires, located at 120-degree intervals from the central pyramid, house Type 9 Heaven's Blade restriction systems, calibrated to focus a disruptive energy field towards the central spire. Although unable to prevent physical escape of SCP-031, the system serves to prevent SCP-031's psychic energies from escaping the structure and affecting off-site personnel. Reclamation efforts of the hotel are currently underway, with local government forces utilizing hazmat-suited personnel armed with flame projectors and chemical sprayers to decontaminate areas affected by SCP-031. However, due to the slow pace of progress in SCP-031's defensive capabilities, reclamation efforts are drastically behind schedule. Personnel who become affected by SCP-031's psychic abilities are to be terminated immediately to prevent their biomatter from becoming incorporated into its physical matrix. Description: SCP-031 is an amorphous organism with a mass of over 7,500 kilograms that has infiltrated the ductwork and maintenance infrastructure of the building. Tendrils emerging from SCP-031's central mass have spread through the hotel's plumbing and ductwork to all 105 floors of the building. At its peak, over 75% of the hotel's 3,000 rooms were contaminated by SCP-031. Reclamation efforts have destroyed redacted of the initial infestation, but over-redacted rooms remain affected by SCP-031. SCP-031 tendrils terminate in a pod-like structure, sporocarp, consisting of an ovoid structure approximately 2 meters in length with multiple cilia-like structures branching off of the main body. On some occasions, subjects in the presence of an SCP-031 sporocarp will instead perceive it as an individual the subject had a close emotional connection to in their past. The SCP-031 sporocarp will metamorphose into the shape of the person perceived and attempt to persuade the subject to remain with them for an extended period of time. The SCP-031 sporocarp will next attempt to make physical contact with the targeted individual with their cilia-like structures. Digestive juices will be injected into the subject's body, and their flesh will be consumed and incorporated into SCP-031's body mass. In the meantime, a second flagellum will engulf the subject's cranium and brain, replacing the blood vessels with its own tendrils, which will maintain life support of the affected brain by some yet undiscovered means. The tendrils will decerebrate the subject and transport the subject's cranium back through the building's ductwork, where it is incorporated into the central mass. Footage taken through surveillance drones indicate that there are currently redacted crania in the network of tendrils attached to SCP-031's central mass. By all indications, the brains contained within are still alive and may be conscious. History: SCP-031 was recovered on October 22, 1948, following contradictory police records taken after a riot in the city of Redacted, where several civilians had gathered around a refugee camp professing love and devotion to a cult-like leader whom they referred to as the Beloved. Once initial contact and assessment was made, the civilians were pacified through widespread distribution of inhaled tranquilizers and aerosol anesthetics. MTF Psi-7 was able to recover SCP-031's central mass and move it into containment. In its initial form, SCP-031 consisted of a single amorphous entity approximately 75 kilograms in weight, of vaguely humanoid shape. It had not yet manifested the ability to consume and incorporate human biomatter into itself, or any mind-affecting properties aside from inspiring unusual feelings of love and devotion. As of November 16, 1948, SCP-031 had been classified as safe and was in containment at Site Redacted. Unfortunately, the Korean conflict, which began on June 25, 1950, resulted in the destruction of the Foundation containment site at Pyongyang and the loss of all anomalies contained within. By the end of the conflict in 1953, all other anomalies were accounted for, either recovered or confirmed destroyed, aside from SCP-031, which was presumed lost and in the wild. Foundation assets first became aware of the reemergence of SCP-031 in 1992, when construction on the Ryuyong Hotel in Pyongyang suddenly halted. Personnel liaising with the local regime confirmed that an anomalous effect had resulted in the disappearance of numerous workers employed in the construction of the hotel, and a Foundation mobile task force was dispatched to investigate. All members of the MTF were subsequently lost in action, and the site was locked down and declared off-limits. All work on the Ryuyong Hotel ceased for over 16 years, aside from the installation of the Heaven's Blade restriction systems on the secondary spires. In 2008, increased infiltration of SCP-031 into the building's infrastructure resulted in the possibility of its discovery by outside persons. The local regime immediately ordered that windows be installed on the structure to hide the existence of the SCP-031 from others, resulting in the loss of redacted more construction workers. Unfortunately, this was perceived as a resumption of construction on the building, resulting in expectations that the structure would actually be completed and open to the public in the future. Reclamation efforts commenced within the year, utilizing flame and solvent projecting equipment to destroy SCP-031 tendrils and sporocarps, with each team accompanied by a political officer assigned to terminate any personnel who became assimilated into SCP-031. As of this current date, reclamation efforts are still underway. Foundation personnel are continuing to liaise with the local regime and monitor their progress, which is slow, but steady. Appendix 1. Experts from REIZA email server. From REIZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones. To Records Office 2201. Subject: Incomplete Special Containment Procedures file for SCP-031. Team, I have an issue that needs immediate clarification. I have the Ryuyong Hotel as the location of a mind-affecting stele from the Proto-Afro-Asiatic culture group. As you can see, that's the same location as this brain-stealing flesh network. Are these two objects related at all? Is this hotel some kind of DPRK containment facility? If so, we should put that into the Object Special Containment Procedures file. Please reply at your earliest convenience. From Records Office 2201 to REIZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones. RE. Incomplete Special Containment Procedures file for SCP-031. Eleanor, as far as my team can figure, there doesn't appear to be a link between the two objects. In fact, I'm getting conflicting reports from the containment teams regarding whether or not either of these objects actually exist. The 1427 team is insisting the hotel is the site for the stele, and there's no brain-eating flesh network there, and the DPRK government is part of the containment procedures. Then, I have the team for SCP-031 insisting that the DPRK government's involvement is purely politically motivated, i.e., we don't want to get involved so long as they're taking care of it, and there's no such thing as a mind-affecting stele located within the building, which is concerning given that we've got two mind-affecting anomalies within the same space and two teams with two separate stories here. Possibly Eastern Samothrace situation? Gwen. From REIZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones to Records Office 2201. RE, SCP-031 and SCP-1427 records conflict. Was Incomplete Special Containment Procedures file for SCP-031. Okay, someone needs to get to the bottom of this. We can't have a useful database with such blatantly contradictory information. Make it your first priority to resolve this. From Records Office 2201 to REIZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones. RE, SCP-031 and SCP-1427 records conflict. Eleanor, will do. Entered into the tracker as 000031 F99ZX, with a sister ticket entered as 0011427 F99ZX. Gwen. From REIZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones to Records Office 2201. RE, SCP-031 and SCP-1427 records conflict. Team, can I get an update on the issue? From Records Office 2201 to REIZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones. RE, SCP-031 and SCP-1427 records conflict. Eleanor, My apologies. I guess I wasn't clear that further updates would be sent out through the tracker system. We're gathering information and assessing the situation. We'll keep you informed. Gwen. RIEZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones. To Records Office 2201, SCP-031, and SCP-1427, records conflict. Team, it's been 3 days. Can I please get the requested update, or at least a deadline by which we'll have this issue resolved? From Records Office 2201 to RIEZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones. RE, SCP-031, and SCP-1427, records conflict. Eleanor, as I stated in Tracker Update 22 on this ticket, we found that the problem is more complicated than we expected, requiring us to physically send a person from HQ over to Pyongyang to investigate. It's taken us some time to get through that North Korean red tape, totalitarian governments, am I right? And to get the paperwork done to reassign Jenny's responsibilities while she's gone. Gwen. From RIEZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones to Records Office 2201. RE. What's the holdup? Team, it's been 2 weeks. Why has there been no update on this issue? This is a highly time-sensitive issue, and your lack of progress is extremely disappointing. We need to get this resolved before Maria has to step in. From Records Office 2201 to RIEZA Associate Director Eleanor Jones. RE, what's the holdup? Eleanor, I can assure you that, per your instructions, resolving this issue has been our top priority. We've been cross-referencing between the documentation, and the only discrepancy appears to be the fact that there are discrepancies. As in, all of the documentation for one project is internally consistent, and all of the documentation for the second project is internally consistent. It's only when you put them together that things don't make sense. We tried talking to the project leads of both teams, but neither of them seems to know the other exists. We tried having them look up the other team's SCP file in the system. They can read it just fine, but it doesn't make sense to them. SCP-031 team has no record of 1427 on site, and vice versa. We thought there might be some kind of time-space parallel dimensions thing going, so we had a member of each team try to meet up at the same place at the Ryugan Hotel outside the front entrance. They were not able to find each other, despite confirming that they were both in the same place at the same time. Photographs with timestamps attached. We then had the 2 team members try to meet up at a location outside the hotel, and they were able to meet up just fine. When they tried to return to the hotel together, they lost track of each other and ended up not being able to find each other. We tried sending Jenny over to Pyongyang to investigate. That was a pain in the ass, given visa restrictions into North Korea. They weren't able to meet with both teams simultaneously, but they were able to meet with each team one-on-one. Both teams gave them a tour of their containment facility, and everything seemed to be in order. 3-1 team showed them the reclaimed rooms and the cleanup teams, while 1427 team showed them the location of the steel. Neither team was able to allow direct contact with the anomaly because of the containment procedures, but they were able to confirm its existence through remote cameras. The DPRK team for 3-1 had no idea about the existence of any DPRK assets being used to contain 1427, and vice versa. This might not be too surprising given information controls in that country. To make things even worse, Jenny got a call from Yunmai at the KR branch asking what the hell a Razia staff member was doing in the city. She contacted them, and as far as KR is concerned, we do not and have not had any assets in the Ryugyong Hotel. Jenny went so far to ask Yunmai to take her to the hotel and show her around a bit, and when she got there, she couldn't find any trace of SCP-031, 1427, or the teams involved with either. So, in conclusion, after 3 weeks of hard work, we can conclude, from the evidence, one of the following must be true. 1. SCP-031 exists, and SCP-1427 does not. 2. SCP-1427 exists, and SCP-031 does not. 3. Both SCP-1427 and SCP-031 exist, and there is an anomaly at the Ryugyong Hotel preventing either team from knowing about the other or proving the other exists. 4. Neither SCP-031 or SCP-1427 exist, and there is an anomaly at the Ryugyong Hotel, creating the impression that it exists in the Eurasia Central Staff, but the KR branch staff are not affected. 5. One or both of SCP-031 and SCP-1427 may or may not exist, and the KR branch are under a mind-affecting compulsion that they do not, or were under a compulsion that it does. 6. All or none or some of the above may be true simultaneously due to multi-worlds theory, parallel universes, Or timey-wimey fuckery shit, and if you have any idea on what we can fucking do to fucking fix that shit, I've got Gwen. From Razia Associate Director Eleanor Jones to Records Office 2201, subject, new directives. Hello, team. 1. Effective immediately, Guinevere Kirkpatrick has been relieved of her duties as the project lead at Records Office 2201. 2. All Records Office 2201 staff are to make the resolution of tickets 000031 F99ZX and 0011427 F99ZX their top priority. No other work on any other project is to continue until this issue is resolved. I want hourly reports until this matter is concluded. From Director Maria Jones, Record Keeping and Information Security Administration, to all Razia Associate Directors. Subject, redacted. A fond farewell and other updates. Good afternoon, Razia staff. Thank you again for all your hard work. Today's email will be a short one. 1. The 3.14 update of Scuttle has been updated to Snapshot 2207D. Please remind your team leads to log into the test instance and confirm proper functionality. Send any bug reports to the Scuttle team as soon as possible. We know that this involves taking time out of your day for additional tasks, but the sooner we complete this wide-scale stress test, the sooner we can roll out the new version and put some fears to rest. 2. I am saddened to announce that Eleanor has chosen to retire due to health concerns. This announcement came as a surprise to me as well. Due to the sudden nature of her health crisis, she was unable to say goodbye to us before being transferred to Redacted Hospital, where I understand she is convalescing nicely. Please expect a follow-up email with a link to a crowdfunding page for a going-away gift for her, as well as an address where you can send cards, gifts, and other well wishes. Until we can appoint a new AD to take over her projects, we will temporarily be splitting her teams up between several different existing ADs. Expect an announcement of the new table of organization by noon GMT. 3. Please take a moment during your next weekly team meeting to go over Section 22B, reporting inconsistencies in documentation, of your handbook with your staff, and make sure that everyone knows the proper procedures to follow if and when you end up with an information anomaly. Maria. Item number, SCP-032, Object Class, Euclid, Special Containment Procedures. SCP-032 is to be housed in Automated Containment Unit 53515. Direct contact with SCP-032 is to be restricted to research-relevant tasks only. Interviews, if deemed necessary, are to be carried out using the unit's remote communication array. While SCP-032's presence is not directly harmful to the human body, exposure to it is to be limited to periods of 12 hours or less due to its adverse effects on most beneficial microorganisms. SCP-032 is not to be exposed to any biological material not refined or otherwise tempered by humanity, with an emphasis on non-human living entities. For full list of classifications, see Document 032-RCL. SCP-032 neither requires nor requested substances or other forms of comfort. Description: SCP-032 is a Type F, imperfect external resemblance, internally inconsistent, human simulacrum of currently unknown origins. It is composed of an outer shell of pigmented silicone, 5.5 mm thick, and various plastic fiber polymers with the outward appearance of a Caucasian woman nearing the third decade of life. SCP-032's interior is composed entirely of liquid refined oil, lacking any skeletal or muscle structure. Despite this, SCP-032 is capable of locomotion and speech. SCP-032 is capable of maintaining the illusion of humanity at a moderate distance, but becomes unconvincing at a closer range, causing mild discomfort in most observers. This effect has been deemed non-anomalous. Despite apparently possessing fully realized cognitive abilities, SCP-032 claims that it is not sapient, acting only as an intermediary instrument of its creators. The Foundation has not been able to verify or refute this claim as of yet. SCP-032 possesses extreme adverse effects to any biological entity in its close vicinity, not created, willfully influenced, manipulated by, or similarly relating to humanity. While the exact nature of these effects varies, SCP-032's presence inevitably causes severe and irreparable damage to the ability of any living organism to exchange and/or use energy. Wild flora loses its ability to photosynthesize or otherwise produce or consume energy. Fauna, the use of its respiratory and digestive systems, etc. This applies to microorganisms as well, though SCP-032's effects seem to favor damage to their reproductive systems instead. It is hypothesized that the symbiotic relation some microorganisms have to humanity is the reason for this discrepancy. SCP-032 was discovered sitting on the doorstep of the inner compound of Foundation Site Redacted near Redacted, Slovakia. When questioned by Foundation security personnel, SCP-032 explained its anomalous effects and claimed it was there to be stored. Surveillance footage shows no record of the time of its arrival, and it is not yet known how SCP-032 came to know Site Redacted's location or approach it without being spotted. When asked for its reason for seeking Foundation custody, SCP-032 replied that it was there at the command of its creators, seeking indefinite storage until claimed. Addendum. Note: this interview was recorded near the time of SCP-032's initial containment by Dr. Alexander Kovac, Site Redacted resident psychologist, following its initial examination by Site Security. Begin log. Dr. Kovac. Before we begin, there's something I feel I should ask you, since security so often neglects doing so. It's not strictly conforming to protocol, but I find it tends to make things easier. SCP-032. I was instructed to cooperate. Dr. Kovac. Good. Very good. Tell me then. What is your name? SCP-032. I don't have one. People have names. I'm not one. Dr. Kovac. Is that so? What did your so-called creators call you then? SCP-032. They didn't. Dr. Kovac. Surely they had to refer to you somehow. SCP-032. I'm a vessel of their will and nothing else. They never needed to call. They never will. Dr. Kovac. In that case, would you mind if I refer to you as SCP-032? SCP-032. I was instructed to cooperate. Dr. Kovac. So you said. Tell me then, what is the purpose of your coming here? SCP-032. I am to be stored here until collected. Dr. Kovac. Security told me that much, but why here and collected by whom? SCP-032. Collected by the ones they wish to torment, and stored here because in finding me here, he will suffer further. Dr. Kovac. Is that so? Is that person you refer to part of this organization, then? Do your creators bear some grudge towards a particular operative? SCP-032. He is not one of you, merely a one-time sympathizer of sorts. He believes you tried to help him once, and if he is forced here, if he finds me here, you will die. That'll hurt him. They have no interest in any of you, or your organization. You are here as a tool, just as I am. Dr. Kovac. Who is this man, then? What did he do to earn the sort of treatment from your creators? SCP-032. He did not know his place. Won when he should have lost, was proud when he should have been humbled, was wasteful with gifts too precious for abuse. Dr. Kovac. And you are here as punishment? SCP-032. He was already punished, severely, forced away from kin and kind to endlessly wander, to destroy against his will, to poison humanity by his very presence, eternal solitude, flavored by ceaseless guilt, a masterwork of torment, they say. Dr. Kovac. If that's the case, why are you here? SCP-032. Because even in this existence, there is the occasional moment of solace. At times, he may yet look to the world and see things he will not destroy, look to nature and feel warm wonder, and bask in the false light of ancient, moldy memories. It keeps him sane, gives him hope. That will not serve. Hence my presence. I am to be his last undoing, a hastening to the end of reason. Dr. Kovac. And how will your presence do that? Are you meant to deceive him in some way? Is that why you look the way you do? SCP-032. In a manner of speaking. Eventually his wanderings will lead him here, to me, in a day, or a month, or a century, and he will recognize me, and see what they think of his precious memories, how they mock him. He'll understand that because of his actions. She's forever beyond his grasp, and all that remains to him is me, a simulacrum as artificial as his hope. When he finds me, I will attach myself to him, and he will watch the mockery of his memories destroy his last source of solace. And that will be that. Dr. Kovac, you said he'll recognize you? Why? SCP-032. I used to be his wife. End log. Note: this interview was held 6 months following SCP-032's initial containment as part of a series of interviews meant to evaluate SCP-032's cognitive abilities and personality, or lack thereof. SCP-032. I hate her. Dr. Kovac. Well, that's certainly a way to start an interview. Care to elaborate? SCP-032. The one I was made to look like. My mold. I hate her. Dr. Kovac. An interesting sentiment for you to have, considering your repeated assurance that you possess no consciousness or feelings of your own. SCP-032. I don't. I hate her because they want me to. It serves their purpose. Dr. Kovac. How did you get that impression? SCP-032. The first thing they did after creating me was to show her to me. It's not something they often do. Dr. Kovac. I don't follow. SCP-032. Interfere with those who passed beyond their halls. They might be vengeful, spiteful, even cruel, but they take their duties very seriously. Just to show her to me, to risk disturbing her final rest. They wouldn't do that without a purpose. Dr. Kovac. And SCP-032. She was beautiful. So peaceful, serene, whole. Even gone, even dead, I could see the essence of who she used to be, of who she still was and forever will be. Her soul. They told me she didn't get to live for all that long. But when she lived, she was herself. She was alive. And so I hated her. Do you know what it feels like to be made as a mockery? In every line of that smooth, silent face, I saw a twisted reflection in my own. Fragrant skin to molded plastic, soft hair to synthetic fiber, blood to oil, soul to nothing at all. Dr. Kovac. Excuse me if this sounds presumptuous, but I can't imagine feelings like this coming from anywhere but yourself. SCP-032. Shakes head. Can't you see? This is all a part of their plan. When he finds me, when he sees what the brothers created just to punish him further, he'll go mad. Dr. Kovac. Because of what they did to the memory of his wife? SCP-032. Not only that, because he'll see me. He'll see how much I hate her, and how much I hate myself for not being her. Hate being here at all. Dr. Kovac. And then what? SCP-032. Then, a final realization. Dr. Kovac. And what would that be? SCP-032. He never won. End log. Item number SCP-033. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-033 should be inscribed on any single sheet of irregularly shaped and handcrafted paper, papyrus, canvas, or vellum when not involved in active observation or study. The dimensions of the paper-like product should have no parallel borders, no right angles, and no sides lengths should be equal to any other. 033 safe dimensions. When contained in this manner, the paper-like product should be secured in a locked, non-combination storage vault at least 30 meters from any computing or recording device. Logs for checkout or check-in of SCP-033 should be filled out at the minimum safe distance of 30 meters to avoid possible contamination of the paper product or electronic device the log is kept in. When removed for study, SCP-033 can be copied to a white chalkboard with 033 safe dimensions by Class D staff. Upon transfer to the white chalkboard, the paper-like product that had contained SCP-033 should be incinerated. Observation and study should take place in a secured conference room at least 30 meters from any computing or recording device for the maximum 2,560-second viewing window. All observations or notes should be made on 033 safe materials. Under no circumstances should any notes regarding SCP-033 leave the storage facility or be input into computing or recording device. At precisely 2,000 seconds of viewing, research must stop and SCP-033 should be transferred to a new 033 safe paper-like product and returned to storage by Class D staff. The white chalkboard utilized in research must be incinerated as soon as possible after the transfer is complete, regardless of whether SCP-033 has faded naturally from its surface at 2,560 seconds. Whether 033 safe procedures halt or merely slow the deleterious effects of SCP-033 is unknown. It is theorized the irregular borders and handcrafting by mathematically unpredictable humans somehow disrupt the logic which allows SCP-033 to function. Description: SCP-033 appears as a field of complex mathematical symbols ranging from simple layman identifiable representations to those only interpretable by highly trained mathematicians. The sum of the symbols is equal to a previously unknown integer, designated theta prime by Professor Hutchinson, of intermediate value between redacted and redacted. As all modern mathematical calculations are performed, lacking the knowledge or use of SCP-033, its introduction into any system organized without it begins eroding the numerical and eventually structural integrity of said system. This effect extends to SCP-033's transfer to any paper-like, defined as paper, vellum, papyrus, canvas, surface not possessing 033 safe dimensions, or any computing or recording device it is input into. If inscribed on any other material, SCP-033 fades into unintelligibility in precisely 2,560 seconds. In addition, SCP-033 has shown an ability to leap from a 033 safe material to a manufactured or electronic material which it can destabilize in at least one instance. Incident Report 033-D, requiring the institution of a 30-meter safe distance from electronic devices and paper-like products without 033 safe dimensions. There is currently no 033 safe specification for electronic storage. Redacted of the redacted operational research projects involving SCP-033 are dedicated to finding such a method for electronic storage. Redacted operational research projects are dedicated to the application of SCP-033 as a neutralizing factor for potentially hostile, machine logic-based SCP objects. Clarifying commentary from Professor Hutchinson follows for non-specialist staff in Document 033-A. Effects may be reviewed in Document 033-Q. Document 033-A. Debriefing of Professor Hutchinson after first observation. Transcript edited for clarity. Professor Hutchinson: Every school child knows that 2 + 2 is 4. The solid mathematical certainty of numerical order and value is the basis for all logic-based systems. We know that after 2 comes 3, and after 3 comes 4. What this formula proves is that we missed a number somewhere. Imagine if all our technology was based on the belief that after 4 came 6. We simply didn't know or conceive of 5. That is, in essence, what this formula proves. We missed a number. I can't tell you why the handcrafted vellum works best. I can only surmise that it displaces mathematical predictability in 2 ways. 1. The irregularity of the crafting process due to human error serves to eliminate any traces of regularity that would be found in a machine-created product. 2. The irregular borders seem to confuse it somehow, as if it gets locked up looking for a pattern to identify and use as an escape hatch. I'll tell you this, though. I don't think it should be left on anything longer than a few days. It will find a pattern eventually. I don't think it destroys anything. I think it tries integrating itself into our system, and our system can't hold it. It's like trying to cram another book into a full bookshelf. If you get a hammer, you can get it in there, but the whole shelf bursts eventually. If it gets out into the internet, we will potentially experience a full IT infrastructure collapse within hours. Document 033-Q. Test results. Trial 033 Delta 5. SCP-033 inscribed onto a single sheet of standard 8.5 by 11 inch manufactured white copy paper, hereafter X1, a second sheet of identical paper, hereafter X2, placed 30 centimeters away. 80 seconds. Symbols consistent with the content of SCP-033 begin appearing on X2, X1 unchanged. 160 seconds. Full content of SCP-033's formula appear on the surface of X2, X1 unchanged. 320 seconds. X1, X2 both appear wet. Symbols still visible. 640 seconds. X1 is now roughly 1 part, apparently, water and 5 parts pulp-like substance, still filling an 8.5 by 11 inch flat plane. Symbols become unintelligible. X2 still appears wet. Symbols visible. 1,280 seconds. X1 no longer visible at all. Liquid part appears to have evaporated. Pulp-like substance apparently sublimated. X2, now roughly 1 part liquid and 5 parts pulp-like substance, still filling an 8.5 by 11 inch flat plane. Symbols unintelligible. 2,560 seconds. X2 no longer visible at all. Liquid part appears to have evaporated. Pulp-like substance apparently sublimated. Item number, SCP-034, Object Class, Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-034 is to be kept in a secure room with access granted only to Level 4 personnel. SCP-034 itself will be kept in a locked case that is under 24-hour surveillance. When not in lab conditions, SCP-034's protective sheath cannot be removed under any circumstances. Any personnel in contact with SCP-034 must be placed under a 24-hour observation period until their identities can be confirmed. Description: SCP-034 is a primitive knife constructed out of pure obsidian. Tests reveal that SCP-034 is approximately 1,000 years old. Despite its crude method of construction and age, SCP-034 is still incredibly sharp and requires no maintenance to retain its edge. Expert analysis hypothesized that SCP-034 may be of South American origin and that it may have been used in Native American rituals. Several accounts from Spanish conquistadors exploring the redacted region support this hypothesis, with detailed writings on how redacted priests would flay their victims alive with similar knives and wear their skin as a tribute to their gods. SCP-034 has the ability to allow its bearer to take on the appearance of another individual. If SCP-034 is used to cut a piece of flesh from a living individual, and that piece of flesh is placed against the skin of another individual, the second individual would take on not only the appearance, but all physical characteristics of the first individual. Testing has shown that the minimum amount of skin required can be as little as 1 square centimeter. However, testing has also revealed that the amount of time the transformation lasts is directly proportional to the amount of flesh used. The ratio of time the transformation lasts to flesh used has been measured at approximately 1 hour for every square centimeter used. Once the time limit has passed, the affected individual will revert to their original form. Analysis of SCP-034's ability shows that its method of mimicking another individual is nearly flawless. Not only does SCP-034 change its bearer's physical appearance, but their actual physical attributes as well, including height, weight, muscle mass, bone density, hair growth, eyesight, strength, physical medical conditions, and even DNA. The only physical traits that are not carried over in the transformation process are wounds caused by SCP-034 itself. Subjects will retain their original personality and memories while transformed, even though the process is nearly instantaneous, taking only a few seconds. Human test subjects have described the transformation process as extremely painful. Subjects also may suffer psychological trauma depending on the extent of their physical transformation. Side effects are especially serious if the subject takes on the appearance of a person with differing gender or with wildly different physical attributes. However, in order to function properly, the individuals who have their flesh cut off by SCP-034 must still be biologically alive to maintain the transformation. Should the individual whose identity has been stolen expire, the effect immediately wears off. Further details may be found in Lab Report 034-A. Also, SCP-034 only appears to work on human subjects. Cross-species experiments with SCP-034 have resulted in data expunged. SCP-034 came into Foundation possession when an imposter disguised as Dr. Redacted attempted to infiltrate Site Redacted. The imposter was apprehended when authorities discovered the real Dr. Redacted tied up in his home with a large portion of his right arm skinned. Further details may be found in Post-Interrogation Report 2211. Lab Report 034A. We've decided to test several scenarios dealing with the limits of SCP-034's capabilities. Test 1. Sample taken from deceased human cadaver and applied to subject D452. There is no observable effect. Test 2. Sample taken from D532 and applied to D452. D452 successfully mimics D532's appearance. Upon termination of D532, D452 immediately reverts back to original form. Test 3. Sample taken from D433 while under a medically induced coma and applied to subject D452. D452 successfully mimics D433's appearance and manages to maintain the transformation and consciousness. Test 4. Sample taken from a brain-dead medical patient who suffered a massive brain hemorrhage and applied to D452. D452 successfully mimics the patient's appearance, but immediately loses consciousness upon transformation. D452 does not regain consciousness until the transformation period expires. D452 retains no memory of the event. Test 5. Sample taken from D625 who suffered a broken arm due to a confrontation with security staff. D452 successfully mimics D625's appearance, including the broken arm. D452's broken arm is remended when the transformation period expires. Test 6. Sample taken from a terminally ill medical patient and applied to D452. The patient's terminal illness was caused by an inherent genetic defect. D452 successfully mimics the patient's appearance as well as the patient's illness. Both the terminally ill patient and D452 expire at the same time, after which D452 reverts back to original form. Test 7. Sample taken from a chimpanzee and applied to D466. D466 experiences rapid growth of hair across their entire body. There are otherwise no other significant physical or psychological changes. Body hair disappears when the transformation period expires. Test 8. Sample taken from an Atlantic salmon and applied to D466. There is no observable effect. Test 9. Under 05 authorization, a sample taken from SCP Redacted is applied to D466. D466 exhibits extremely adverse reaction upon transformation and data expunged, resulting in significant damage to testing environment, multiple injuries among test and security staff, and the death of D466. Testing of anomalous humanoids with SCP-034 is suspended indefinitely. Post-Interrogation Report 2211. As per standard operating procedure, we first attempted to interrogate the prisoner via non-violent and non-invasive means. However, when such methods proved ineffective, we began to implement conventional interrogation techniques. While partially successful, we deemed it necessary to use SCP Redacted, SCP Redacted, SCP Redacted, and SCP Redacted. We managed to learn the following facts. The prisoner had extensive knowledge on the existence of the Foundation and its inner workings. The prisoner had extensive knowledge on other SCP-related agencies and groups. The prisoner was not acting under any official capacity from any government agency. The prisoner obtained SCP-034 and instructions on its operation from an unknown benefactor. The prisoner was given very specific instructions to infiltrate Site Redacted and maintain his position until further notice. The prisoner had enough samples of Dr. Redacted to stay within Site Redacted for redacted days. Regrettably, the prisoner did not survive interrogation. Agent Redacted. Item Number SCP-035. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-035 is to be kept within a hermetically sealed glass case no fewer than 10 centimeters or 4 inches thick. This case is to be contained within a steel, iron, and lead-shielded room at all times. Doors are to be triple locked at all times, with the exception of allowing personnel in or out. No fewer than 2 armed guards are to be posted at any time. Guards must remain outside at all times and are not allowed within the containment room under any circumstances. A trained psychologist is to remain on site at all times. Research personnel are not to touch SCP-035 at any time. SCP-035 must be moved to a new sealed case every 2 weeks. The previous case must be disposed of via SCP-101 as it shows no adverse reactions to the SCP-035's corruption. Anyone who comes into contact with SCP-035 when it is in possession of a host is to be given an immediate psychological evaluation. Description: SCP-035 appears to be a white porcelain comedy mask, although at times it will change to tragedy. In these events, all existing visual records such as photographs, video footage, even illustrations of SCP-035 automatically change to reflect its new appearance. A highly corrosive and degenerative viscous liquid constantly seeps from the eye and mouth holes of SCP-035. Anything coming into contact with this substance slowly decays over a period of time, depending on the material, until it has decayed completely into a pool of the original contaminant. Glass seems to react the slowest to the effects of the item, hence the construction choice of its immediate container. Living organisms that come into contact with the substance react much the same way, with no chance of recovery. Origin of the liquid is unknown. Liquid is only visible from the front and does not emerge or is even visible from the other side. Subjects within 1.5 to 2 meters or 5 to 6 feet of SCP-035 or in visual contact with it experience a strong urge to put it on. When SCP-035 is placed on the face of an individual, an alternate brainwave pattern from SCP-035 overlaps that of the original host, effectively snuffing it out and causing brain death to the subject. Subject then claims to be the consciousness contained within SCP-035. The bodies of possessed subjects decay at a highly accelerated rate, eventually becoming little more than mummified corpses. Nevertheless, SCP-035 has demonstrated the ability to remain in cognitive control of a body experiencing severe structural damage, even if the subject's body literally decays to the point where motion is not mechanically possible. No effect is found to be had when placed on the face of an animal. Conversations with SCP-035 have proven to be informative. Researchers have learned various details about other SCP objects and history in general, as SCP-035 claims to have been at many momentous events. SCP-035 displays a highly intelligent and charismatic personality, being both amiable and flattering to all those who speak with it. SCP-035 has scored in the 99th percentile on all intelligence and aptitude tests administered to it, and appears to have a photographic memory. However, psychological analysis has discovered SCP-035 to possess a highly manipulative nature, capable of forcing sudden and profound changes to interviewers' psychological state. SCP-035 has proven to be highly sadistic, prompting some to commit suicide and transforming others to nearly mindless servants with linguistic persuasion alone. SCP-035 has stated that it has intimate knowledge of the workings of the human mind and implied that it could change anyone's view if given enough time. Additional, SCP-035 was found in a sealed crypt in an abandoned house in Venice in 18 redacted. Addendum 035-01. SCP-035 has been found to be able to possess anything that has a humanoid shape, including mannequins, corpses, and statues. SCP-035 has been able to motivate all into movement, removing the need to expose living subjects to SCP-035. Still, anything it possesses inevitably decays into motionlessness. Addendum 035-02. SCP-035 has facilitated an escape attempt, convincing several of the research staff to aid it in its bid for freedom. Insurrection failed. All staff that have been in contact with SCP-035 have been terminated, and mandatory psychiatric evaluations have been implemented for all personnel coming in contact with SCP-035. Addendum 035-03. It has been determined that SCP-035 is capable of telepathy, whether or not it possesses a host, even penetrating to the subconscious of others, and using the knowledge it finds to its advantage. Extreme caution is advised when choosing subjects to converse with SCP-035. Addendum 035-04. SCP-035 has expressed an interest in other SCPs, most notably SCP-4715 and SCP-682. Dr. Redacted has expressed worry that should SCP-035 bond with either, their regenerative qualities would negate its corruption and give it a permanent host. Addendum 035-05. After several more escape attempts, and after reviewing SCP-035's incident record, High Command has ordered that it be permanently sealed within the facility and prohibited from being allowed any more hosts. Several personnel have protested against this, with some even erupting into violence. As a direct result, all personnel that have come into contact with SCP-035 have been terminated. Going forward, all personnel that deal with SCP-035 are to be rotated frequently, and contact is to be limited even to its dormant state to as little as possible. Addendum 035-06. Personnel within 10 meters of SCP-035 have recently reported feeling unease, stating that they can hear unintelligible whispering. Several others have suffered from severe migraines. An object has been monitored, but there is no change in its dormant behavior and no sounds have been recorded. The motion to reinstate SCP-035's host privileges has been brought up once more, if only on a temporary basis, to discover these new changes in the object's behavior. Denied. Addendum 03507. The walls of SCP-035's containment cell have suddenly begun secreting a black substance. Tests on the substance have revealed it to be human blood, although highly contaminated with several foreign and unknown agents. Substance is corrosive, having a pH of 4.5, and prolonged exposure to the walls has proven to be detrimental to their structural integrity. More notably, it seems to be forming patterns on the walls. Several segments seem to be paragraphs in various languages, including Italian, Latin, Greek, and Sanskrit. Translation is pending. Other segments appear to be diagrams depicting ritualistic sacrifice and mutilation, often for the archon benefit of the person committing them. Several staff members have been shocked to note that all of the sacrifices bear an uncanny resemblance to various personnel and their loved ones, often in conflicting positions. Researchers, while in the room examining these newly formed patterns, have complained of hearing loud whispering and high-pitched, unnerving laughter at irregular intervals. Personnel in the section working daily near and around SCP-035's containment unit have suffered catastrophic moral damage, with an all-time high in suicide rates in staff in that area, whether or not they have ever had contact with SCP-035. The only change in SCP-035's dormant behavior is regarding its contained glass case. Degradation of the case has increased to a high degree, enough so that the glass will occasionally shatter, causing a wide dispersal of SCP-035's contaminant. This occurs quite often at the most inopportune times, so far resulting in 6 casualties and 3 fatalities of both research and cleanup staff. Addendum 03508. In light of the mass suicide-homicide of the members of the research team tasked with translating the passages garnered from SCP-035's containment cell, the moral damage in the area, and general loss of staff dealing with SCP-035 to either death or insanity, it has been decided to coat the inner wall and outer walls of its containment cell with SCP-148, which has proved well in the containment of SCP-132. See Document 13201, in order to hopefully block out the high levels of negativity being emitted by SCP-035. Addendum 03509. The use of SCP-148 has worked well, causing morale and suicide rates to return to near pre-SCP-035 rates. However, the material appears to facilitate the negativity within the cell, causing a veritable greenhouse effect inside. Personnel inside the cell have stated that they feel a heavy sense of dread, fear, anger, and general depression, as well as hearing constant, nearly inaudible whispering among immediate entry. A prolonged stay causes severe migraines, suicidal tendencies, heavy hemorrhaging of blood vessels around the eyes and inside the mouth and nose, general hostility to others, and for the whispering to increase to almost deafening volumes, intersected by a constant mocking laughter. Exposure of more than 3 hours inevitably results in the subject falling into a deep psychosis and attempting to harm either themselves or others. Most spoke in Latin or Greek, despite the fact that several did not previously know how to speak said languages beforehand. The presence of blood in both word and diagram formations has increased disproportionately, the walls becoming cluttered and the formations beginning to overlap each other. The substance has proven to be both difficult to clean and even more corrosive than was originally recorded, with a pH of roughly 2.4. General estimation gives the current walls a life of 2 months before they will need replacement. It is becoming gradually more and more difficult to contain SCP-035, and the debate to reinstate its host privileges has once again come up. Denied. Addendum 03510. The walls, ceiling, and floor of SCP-035's containment cell have now been completely saturated in blood. All personnel entering and guarding the area must wear full hazmat protection suits. Constant cleaning efforts are being instated. Addendum 03511. The magnitude, intensity, and reoccurrence of the phenomena that occur within SCP-035's containment cell have increased to an alarming degree. The cell door has been known to become locked of its own accord while personnel are inside, and unable to be opened for a period of time. Appendages form out of the larger puddles of blood and often attempt to grab or harm personnel near them. Blurry apparitions have started appearing to staff. Electronic devices no longer work inside the cell, and the light cannot be turned on. though there is no physical reason why it does not work, forcing those entering to use non-electric based light sources. Cleaning measures are having no discernible effect on the cell, and the walls are degrading at a very high rate, forcing them to be replaced within a week at best, although the blood makes it nearly impossible to properly achieve this. SCP-035 may have to be moved to a new cell entirely, with the old one sealed off and disengaged from the rest of the facility. Item number: SCP-036. Object Class: Safe. Special Containment Procedures. Once every year, a mobile task force is dispatched from Containment Command 02 and expunged to Site 22A to defend the runway and airport located there. The civilian faculty is to be cleared of all non-SCP personnel by 400 hours of September 23rd, and none are allowed to return until sunrise the next day. On October 1st, all civilians must be evacuated again before sunrise and will not be allowed onto Site 22A until the return of the pilgrimage flight. Pilgrims in transit from the arrival flight awaiting departure on the pilgrim flight may only be cross-examined by researchers with Level 3 security level clearance or higher. Description: SCP-036 includes the location, Site 22A, a small airport in the Mosul region of northern Iraq, and Site 22B, the destination of passengers boarding at Site 22A. The key components of SCP-036 are the arrival flight, a passenger plane that varies in make and model from year to year that arrives shortly before dawn on September 23rd. It appears on radar about 30 to 40 kilometers away from Site 22A. When it lands, pilgrims exit the plane and enter the terminal. No crew have ever left the plane. Observations have only revealed a masked pilot and co-pilot. This plane leaves quickly after pilgrims exit and does not wait for clearance for takeoff, nor does it identify itself upon approach for landing. The pilgrims, people of the Yazdi faith that exit the arrival plane, who are said to be undergoing the Kiras Guhorin. Each year they are examined and identified as various people of the Yazdi faith that have died during the previous year. This is done through birth certificates, photo IDs, specific knowledge, questions, and when possible, fingerprinting. Most have been known to be friendly and amicable, though most are reluctant to give details about the Kiras Guhorin. In the past, all have shown to be unable to recognize family and friends or been able to remember any information beyond what short-term memory would normally allow. In the late afternoon of September 23rd, most pilgrims begin to emphasize how important it is that their pilgrimage must begin. At that time, they file onto the pilgrimage plane and depart, never to be seen again. The pilgrimage flight, a passenger plane provided by SCP personnel for the transport of the pilgrims. It is manned by a crew of trained Yazdi holy men. The crew are typically never able to elaborate upon details of the pilgrimage or what the Kiras Guhorin actually is. SCP equipment on board function optimally, but recorded data will only slightly increase our understanding of the pilgrimage each year. Though the flight is gone for 7 days, the crew and recorded data are only able to account for a few hours. Days are missing from time recording equipment and cameras, though nothing abnormal is ever observed. The plane disappears from radar and visual contact is lost about 50 to 60 kilometers away from Site 22A until it returns about sunrise on October 1st. Site 22B, the destination of the pilgrimage plane. It is a small airport consisting of a runway and single building located at coordinates expunged. It has only been observed by pilgrimage crew and cameras on the plane, does not appear in satellite images, and attempts to reach it on foot have failed, once with disastrous results. Cameras have trouble focusing on the area as the heat from the ground usually causes a mirage-like visual effect on all objects more than a few dozen meters from the plane. A flyover with an SCP reconnaissance plane several weeks before the pilgrimage revealed undeveloped land and what looked like an ancient stone statue. In the 1990s, SCP Mobile Task Force Sigma-4 attempted to reach Site 22B during the time of the pilgrimage. Upon the approach, communication was lost and the task force was never heard from again. No other exploration attempts are advised during the 7-day pilgrimage. Originally, the Kurdish-speaking Yazdi people around Mosul secretly performed the pilgrimage themselves. Pilgrims from the east were escorted by masked armed guards on camelback into the care of Yazdi holy men. It has been explained that the holy men would then take the pilgrims west to their land of the dead, where the pilgrims would wait to be reborn back into the Yazdi people. The Kiras Guhorin, literally Kurdish for changing garments, is used to describe the belief of reincarnation that lesser souls of the Yazdi undergo. While this actual pilgrimage was done in secret, a symbolic pilgrimage and Kiras Guhorin are performed every year at this time by other Yazdi. During the 1960s land acquisition by Kurds and Muslims, Attacks by Turks and punitive laws by the Islamic Iraqi government restricted the movements and customs of the Yazdi. During that time, the Foundation stepped in and offered aid in the way of an advantage clause that granted SCP planes unrestricted access to airport facilities in the area. Almost immediately, mysterious planes carrying pilgrims from the east began landing at the local airport, and an elusive airport at the destination appeared as well. Item number SCP-037. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedure. SCP-037 is magnetically contained in a subterranean complex known as Site-22. Object size, spectral signature, and temperature are constantly monitored both on-site and remotely from Site-98. The primary containment chamber is lined with heat-conducting, radiation-resistant nano-peak GFV polymer tiles and evacuated of any atmosphere. Heat from the object is radiated into the surrounding rock. Should enclosure integrity become compromised, the emergency system will generate a low-power argon plasma shield. This is projected to provide a minimum of 4 hours for on-site engineers to effect necessary repairs before the object breaches containment. In the contingency that stellar evolution proceeds ahead of projections and a nova event appears imminent, or if containment failure is otherwise unavoidable, any remaining project staff are authorized to initiate the Pituak Protocol. Description: SCP-037 appears to be a star approximately 5 centimeters or 2 inches in diameter, with a luminosity of about 1 times 10 to the negative 12th power, times that of our Sun, and a surface temperature of about 5,000 K, determined by UBVRI analysis. The origin of SCP-037 is unknown, however, analysis suggests that it shares many properties in common with a typical main sequence star, other than its anomalous small size. It is theorized to have entered the Earth's magnetosphere via the North Magnetic Pole. The object was discovered in 19redacted above the Beaufort Sea at approximately the northern magnetic pole. Intense electromagnetic interference was reported by Canadian Forces Station CFS Alert, followed by an extremely bright object descending toward the ocean from the sky. The SCPS Guardian responded and discovered the object wavering in an erratic trajectory about 200 meters above the surface of the water. Once containment procedures were devised, it was transported to Site-32 for study. Containment and transport of SCP-037 have been achieved by the use of powerful electromagnets, to which the artifact aligns itself according to its own magnetic field. The primary challenge to containment thus far has been its powerful electromagnetic emissions, which are intense enough to be easily seen by the naked eye from a high Earth orbit. Its current enclosure is located deep underground to prevent detection and to facilitate radiative cooling into the surrounding bedrock. In effect, the entire facility and the surrounding volume of the Earth's crust act as a massive heat sink. Addendum A. Over the past redacted years of study, the star has undergone a shift in emitted EM radiation, suggesting that it is undergoing stellar evolution at a vastly accelerated rate. If standard stellar models hold up, this will soon result in an increase in radius by a factor of 100 to 300 times, in a concomitant increase in radiated energy. Emergency containment contingencies are being studied for that eventuality. Further progression of the star's life cycle will likely terminate in a stellar nova, which is estimated to have a yield of redacted. Extrapolations predict this to occur in redacted. Research is underway for a method to arrest this development or to transport SCP-037 a safe distance from the planet before it occurs. Sent August 5th, 1977, to O5 Council from Dr. Innes. Subject SCP-037, Emergency Neutralization Research. Body: Sirs and Madams, the agents embedded within the U.S. DoD have managed to alter the project requirement for the NASA Orbiter program. The vehicle will now be designed with enough space to accommodate SCP-037 and a temporary containment apparatus in order to facilitate transport off-planet. However, I continue to have reservations. Modern rocket technology simply is not reliable enough for the needs of this project. A single mistake could lead to launch failure and subsequent loss of containment, possibly catastrophically. Even a successful launch would have to proceed perfectly, lest the result be visible to observatories and instruments, and possibly the naked eye around the world. There are numerous artifacts contained by the Foundation which might allow us to transport SCP-037 safely and cost-effectively to an adjacent dimension, universe, or historic domain. SCP-redacted in particular might prove especially convenient for this purpose, considering the outcomes of recent attempts to explore it and the difficulty of Neutralization of SCP-037 might thus serve the added purpose of reducing or removing the threat posed by that anomaly as well. I implore you to reconsider the PTWAC proposal submitted in light of these concerns. End message. Item number SCP-038. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedure. SCP-038 is to be watered twice per day via overhead mister. Should the mister break for any reason, attendants should water SCP-038 by hand until it has been fixed. Lighting is provided by computer-controlled lighting array. Attendants watering SCP-038 by hand and maintenance personnel fixing mister or lighting should wear hazmat suits to prevent accidental cloning. Description: SCP-038 was found on an abandoned farm in Redacted, New York in 19 Redacted. It was at first thought to be a common apple tree. However, upon closer inspection, it became apparent that SCP-038 was growing things other than apples, and in fact, other than fruit. SCP-038 has the ability to clone any object that touches its bark, objects being grown almost instantaneously and reach maturity within a matter of minutes. A weight limit of 200 pounds per object has been previously recorded. Objects that SCP-038 has thus far cloned include apples, oranges, watermelons, eggplants, candy bars, snack foods, see Addendum 1, televisions, toasters, laptops, keys, see Addendum number 2, chairs, wine, DVDs, CDs, see Addendum number 3, cats, dogs, and people. Human and animal cloning through SCP-038 is not recommended as they appear to age quickly. The majority of these clones live on average 2 weeks. After thorough examination of the deceased clones, it has been determined that they begun to ferment before death. Object is currently held on Site-23, and there are currently no plans to move it. Addendum number 1. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue the cloning of items from the vending machines. See Document 338-1. Addendum number 2. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue the cloning of personal items. See Document 338-1. Addendum number 3. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue the cloning of movies and music. See Document 338-1. Addendum number 4. Dr. Klein has requested that personnel discontinue the cloning of cans of Miller, Budweiser, and Foster's. Dr. Klein has furthermore expressed customary disapproval of the quality of such cloned items. See Document 338-1B. Document 338-1. I would like to remind all personnel that SCP-038 is not, I repeat, not a toy. It should not be used for cloning car keys, movies, music, or items from the vending machines. If this behavior continues, I will be forced to limit access to SCP-038. Dr. Klein. Document 338-2. It has been noted that SCP-038 is able to clone SCP-500. However, such pills only work 30% of the time, with chance of successful healing dropping as time since cloned increases. In 60% of the cases where the infection is permanent, symptoms of infection remain, though further infection is neutralized. SCP-038 Partial Testing Log. Select experiments only. For full test records and reports, contact affiliated researchers for authorization. Date: November 8th, redacted. Intent: confirmation of mass limit. Investigation into consequences of exceeding limit. Summary of test results. 400-pound steel ingot made contact with the outer bark of SCP-038. Chamber vacated as a precaution. Cloned ingot grew at typical speed, but growth halted abruptly short of completion. Examination of the end of the aborted phasmil received a rough texture superficially resembling miniature scale tree bark. Item detached from SCP-038. As typical, it was subsequently found to weigh 90.91 kilograms, or almost precisely 200 pounds. Date: November 8th, redacted. Intent: investigation into duplication of non-biological animate matter. Summary of test results. SCP-173, deemed a suitable test subject because of its lack of verifiable life processes, introduced into containment chamber by Class D personnel. Contact made with outer bark of SCP-038, and SCP-173 returned immediately to containment. SCP-173 facsimile began development at typical speed, beginning at point of contact. As consistent with previous results, growth halted at the 200-pound threshold, in this case terminating development after replication of the head, right arm, and partial upper torso. Class D test subject was ordered to break eye contact with clone. When test subject eventually blinked, no movement was observed in cloned material. Extinguishing and re-establishing of containment chamber light supply revealed no apparent reaction from cloned material. Experiment concluded. During storage of cloned portion of SCP-173, it was observed that the partial facsimile was in fact making violent gestures at a dramatically slower rate. Movement was shown to continue regardless of state of observation. Item number 039. Level 2 Restricted. Containment Class Euclid. Disruption Class Vlam. Risk Class Caution. Special Containment Procedures. Living SCP-039 instances are to be contained in Site-77's Wilderness Observation Chamber 2B. The interior and exterior of WOC-2B must be monitored by 2 security guards at all times. WOC-2 is to be inspected weekly for sabotage and contraband. Deceased instances are in refrigerated storage and may be accessed for study upon request. SCP-039-A is data expunged. Description: SCP-039 consists of 23 proboscis monkeys, which have been subject to radical anatomical changes. These alterations are summarized below. 1. The eyes have been removed. New bone growth has filled eye sockets. No remnants of eyelids or eyebrows remain, only smooth skin. 2. Extreme alterations to the mouth. Oral opening is no longer present. No remnants of lips remain, only smooth skin. Jawbone has been fused in place by new bone growth along the joints. Teeth, tongue, gums, and palate are absent, having been replaced by a large deposit of adipose tissue. 3. Removal of digestive system. Esophagus, stomach, gallbladder, intestines, and bladder have all been replaced with adipose tissue formations of similar shape and volume. Anal orifice has been sealed by new skin growth, leaving no remnants of the anus. It is not clear how SCP-039 instances obtain nutrition and dispose of waste, or survive without doing so. 4. Enhancements of auditory, tactile, and olfactory senses. Both absolute and difference thresholds are significantly lower than those of the baseline species. These enhancements allow SCP-039 to effectively navigate their environment despite lack of sight. Instances have been observed tapping on objects when navigating unfamiliar surroundings. This behavior has been theorized to be a form of rudimentary echolocation, but this is yet to be proven. 5. Intelligence enhancements. SCP-039 score consistently higher on all provided cognitive tests than their non-anomalous equivalents. SCP-039 are capable of reproduction. At time of writing, 5 instances of SCP-039 have been born since containment. SCP-039 shows a very close bond among their species, with newborns often being cared for by all capable adults. New instances are born with the same anatomic anomalies as their parents. Despite this, testing has not identified any genetic divergence from baseline species in SCP-039 instances. SCP-039 communicate via touch in a complex series of nasal vocalizations, many of which have not been observed in non-anomalous proboscis monkeys. Original instances also possess a rudimentary understanding of spoken English. This knowledge is not passed on to newborns, but they do naturally learn some English from exposure to Foundation personnel. Instances of SCP-039 have demonstrated the ability to operate mechanical tools and to perform various complex tasks primarily related to automobile construction and maintenance. This knowledge does not appear to be innate, as newborn instances do not possess it. Addendum: SCP-039-1 Recovery Log. SCP-039 were recovered in 1998 when Foundation forces raided a Prometheus Labs facility approximately 25 kilometers north-northwest of Redacted, Nevada. The facility was found to have been abandoned an unknown amount of time prior to Prometheus Labs' collapse. Recovered objects of note include 2 automobiles abandoned in the parking lot outside, a 3rd automobile partially disassembled in a cargo bay, an assortment of power tools, spare parts, paints, and other auto maintenance implements, an assortment of veterinarian anesthetics, surgical implements, and data expunged, located in an operating room, 20 small cages, presumably for the purpose of containing SCP-039. All cages were empty and partially dismantled, with the doors removed. 2 large cages, likewise empty and dismantled, containing chimpanzee hair and feces. The frozen remains of a dissected SCP-039 instance, which lacked a nose or nasal passages in addition to the typical anomalies. The remaining of 3 adult males, identified via dental analysis as Alan redacted, Damien redacted, and Cole redacted. All 3 individuals had been killed by severe blunt trauma, and remains bore pre- and post-mortem bite marks corresponding to chimpanzee dentition. The personal journal of Cole redacted, see Addendum 2, 18 instances of SCP-039, and SCP-039-A. Addendum SCP-039-2, Personal Journal of Cole redacted. Some entries appear to notate the early prototyping stage of SCP-039's development. These entries are reproduced below with portions irrelevant to SCP-039 excised for brevity. This is probably unnecessary, since Damien's keeping track of all the sciencey stuff, but I need something to do. Dear Diary, I should have brought more books to read. No scientific notes were recovered from the facility. Well, we got the monkeys today. Not the monkeys we wanted, mind you. These are frickin' proboscis monkeys. I asked that Werner guy what he was thinking when he got these things, and he just shrugged. Said we didn't specify what kind of monkey we wanted. What kind of weirdo hears monkey and thinks, yeah, I'll get the fat ones with big noses? We wanted Rhesus maquises, just like literally every other research facility on the planet. Now we have to refit everything for 20 monkeys that are twice as big as we expected, or else stick them in cages that are too small. I wonder how he got these things, but I'm kind of afraid to ask. Dude says he's an actor, but I never heard of him. Maybe he's in German movies or something? With a name like that, imagine having exotic animal smuggling as your side job. What a weirdo. Including the deceased instance, only 19 instances of SCP-039 were recovered from the facility. In 1999, the 20th instance was discovered in SCP-1328, living in an otherwise abandoned house belonging to the Red Actors Troupe. The monkeys are doing fine, passing all the tests way better than they did when they could see. Damien says it's probably because they can remember it better, but I still think at least some of it has to do with not being distracted. I know I think better with my eyes closed. Took the nose off of one of the monkeys today to see what would happen. I just figured it would suffocate, but it didn't. Guess it gets its air from the same place as its food now. Makes me wonder just how much we could take out. If it's not breathing, does it really need a heart? That's about the only internal organ it's got left at this point. Pulling the heart won't improve the intelligence any though, so there'd be no point. Just curious. The one with no nose isn't moving anymore. We thought he was dead at first, till we checked for a pulse. Poor guy must be depressed. I'd be pretty unhappy too, I guess, if I couldn't see or talk to any of my friends, but I could still hear them around me. If he doesn't shape up soon, we'll have to dissect him, see if we can figure out what happened. We're going to leave the noses on the rest of them so this doesn't happen again. Called Werner, ordered some chimps. I made sure he knew exactly what animal I was talking about so he won't show up with a fucking baboon or something. Dissected the noseless one today. Couldn't find anything obviously weird. Brain was still intact and everything. Oh well. Damien said that the problem might be specific to this species since the nose is so important to their social structure. I don't know about that since I figured the eyes and mouth were pretty damn important too, but we won't know for sure until we try it on a different species. Werner brought us 2 chimps, both males. They're bigger than I expected. Now that we're done with the monkeys, we're handing them over to Alan. He's going to try to teach them some tricks to impress potential donors. Alan says the monkeys are learning quick. I question the wisdom of teaching monkeys to use power tools, but Alan says they don't seem interested in getting up to mischief. Monkey business. Anymore. Must be the procedure. Decided to start with the nose instead this time, to see if that monkey really freaked out because it couldn't communicate, or because sanity is somehow dependent on the nose or some shit. Probably should have tested that out on the monkeys, but we were too busy trying to get out of feeding them to be properly scientific about it. I wish our grant request hadn't been denied. Then we'd have enough money for some trial and error, and we wouldn't have to rely on some actor for our test subjects. I don't like the chimps. The monkeys were all right because they're so funny looking, but the chimps are a little too much like hairy people for me. Feels like they're actually seeing me when they look, if that makes any sense. Doesn't help that I know they're smarter now. I don't think they like me either. Can't wait till we take their eyes tomorrow. In other news, Alan actually got the monkeys to change the tires on his car. They looked funny doing it, like a furry little pit crew. These must be the smartest monkeys on the planet by now, and Alan says they're still learning. The monkeys are basically geniuses at this point. Alan had them wax his car, do an oil change, and some other car stuff that I don't understand. Hopefully that'll convince the guys upstairs to reconsider our grant. Maybe give us what we need to move on to human experimentation. If that doesn't work, we might be at least able to sell these monkeys to MC&D or somebody as a cheaper, cuter alternative to real auto mechanics. One of the chimps tried to fucking bite me today. I'm not going back in there until we take the mouths. Those bastards can starve for all I care. Damien can handle it. He still doesn't want to take the mouths yet, since those are their last facial features, and he's afraid the same thing that happened to the monkey without a nose will happen to them. Got a call from Werner today. Said he had one more ape for us. I asked him what he was talking about, but he just laughed. Said he'd be here tomorrow and hung up. Doesn't he know we're already struggling? We don't have space for another goddamn monkey. Much less food. Further information regarding SCP-039-A is restricted to personnel level 3 and higher. Addendum 039-3. Information pertaining to SCP-039-A. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-039-A is held in a standard human containment chamber adjusted to accommodate its blind nest. Description: SCP-039-A is an adult human male named Jacob Redacted. Via the same process that created SCP-039, SCP-039-A's eyes, nose, mouth, and associated organ systems have all been removed. It has experienced similar enhancements to its intelligence and remaining senses, as well as other psychological alterations. The following excerpts from Cole Redacted's journal relate to SCP-039-A. It's a human. The ape Werner was talking about, it's a fucking person. A guy named Jake. Some crackhead he scraped up off the street. Probably just promised him a bunch of drugs to lure him into that creepy red van Werner drives, and then dumped him on us. I know our eventual goal here is to boost human intelligence, but we're not ready for human experimentation at this stage. Damien disagrees, says this is a big opportunity. If we can pull off a successful human prototype, then we're bound to get our grant approved, right? He's right, but that doesn't change the fact that this is a whole new level of illegal, not to mention dangerous. Not sure I want to do it just yet, not without approval from upstairs. Fucking Damien. Last night, that asshole went behind my back and operated on Jake. Took his whole damn face off. All at once. Jake's lucky he didn't drop dead right there from the shock. He still hasn't woken up yet, so it might still happen. I told Damien I'll feed him to the fucking chimps if he does this again. I am not prepared to dispose of a body. Shooting me hard out here in the middle of this damn desert. But still. Jake woke up today, already moving around and everything. It's kind of creepy how fast he recovered, and how calm he is about the whole thing. I guess he knew what he signed up for, but you'd think a guy would be at least a little weirded out when he wakes up without a face. Here's something weird. Jake says he isn't craving drugs anymore. He still had some on him when he got here. Crack or meth or I don't know what, but he wants us to get rid of it. According to him, he'd normally be wanting a fix right now, but he hasn't felt the urge since the operation. I don't know how taking his face off cured his addiction. It enhances intelligence, yeah, but it shouldn't alter your brain chemistry like that. Damien's as stumped as me. He's been knee-deep in that old-ass book that gave him this crazy idea in the first place, trying to figure it out. I'd offer to take a look at it, but I don't speak Latin. No books matching this description were recovered from the facility. Jake wanted to see the monkeys today, so, despite my better judgment, we took him to Alan. He was training them to build a car engine, and they were doing a great job, believe it or not, but they could tell somebody new was in the room. I guess they smelled him. A couple of them came over, and he squatted down to pet them. Damien warned him that the monkeys aren't usually very friendly, but they didn't seem to mind. Reached up to touch his face, started snorting a whole lot, seemed kind of excited. I guess because they found a human who's like them. The whole thing was really weird. Now he wants to see the chimps, but I said no. We can't afford to let our only human test subject get mauled to death. Damien does think we can probably take their mouths off, though, since Jake didn't go nuts like that monkey. I guess we'll do that tomorrow, unless something weird happens with Jake. Damien doesn't want to do the chimps until after they meet Jake. Says he wants to see if they make any unusual vocalizations. I don't know what he expects to see, but he says that after the way the monkeys acted yesterday, it might be worth checking out. I said it's still too dangerous, but Damien got kind of shitty about it and said the chimps only act aggressive around me because I don't like them. Said I didn't have to come if I didn't want to. So I won't. I hope they throw shit at him. Well, this is creepy. Damien swears that Jake and the chimps actually communicated. They did the same face-touching things as the monkeys, and then they were hooting and stuff, and he was nodding his head like he understood. Jake says he doesn't know what Damien's talking about, and I'm not sure what to think. It sounds crazy, but then again, so does trusting a guy with no face. I'm starting to think we're in over our heads here. Knew we should have waited for that grant to start human testing. I wish fucking Warner hadn't brought us this guy. Oh, and one more thing. Alan was having the monkeys repaint his car. Starting to think he just did this as an excuse to get his car souped up for free. And one of them snuck off with a couple of tools. Took a while to notice he was gone, but me and Alan tracked the little guy down pretty easily, hanging around outside the chimp pen. Not sure where he left the tools, but we can look for them tomorrow. When MTF Epsilon 6 entered the facility, they discovered SCP-039-A living in what was presumably its quarters, sharing living space with several instances of SCP-039. Initial interactions were complicated by SCP-039-A's inability to speak, but once communication in writing was established, it willingly entered custody. Addendum 039-4 Interviews. The following is an interview of SCP-039-A conducted by researcher Lee Roy Carlson. It communicated its answers by typing on a computer. Begin log. Researcher Carlson. Good morning, SCP-039-A. SCP-039-A waves at Researcher Carlson. Researcher Carlson. I'm Researcher Lee Roy Carlson. SCP-039-A offers Researcher Carlson a handshake, which he accepts. Researcher Carlson. I'd like to ask you a few questions about what happened at that Prometheus Labs facility. SCP-039-A nods. Researcher Carlson. First, how do you know Werner Gillespie? SCP-039-A shrugs. He picked me up in Reno, pulled up beside me on the street in a red van, asked me if I wanted to become human. I asked him what the hell he was talking about, and he told me there were some guys out in the desert somewhere who could fix me, make it so I never needed food or water ever again, make me smarter too. Sounded too good to be true, like you said, but I figured I didn't have much to lose. Besides, he had drugs, so I got in that creepy-ass van with him, and he took me out to that place in the desert. Researcher Carlson. Do you know anything else about him? SCP-039-A shakes its head. We didn't exactly have a heart-to-heart. Researcher Carlson. Did he say why he was interested in this project? SCP-039-A. Nope. Just said he was helping those guys at the lab find test subjects. Researcher Carlson. I see. Is there anything else you know about him? SCP-039-A. He said he was an actor. Oh, and the van had Florida plates. Researcher Carlson. Have you had any contact with Gillespie since he brought you to the facility? SCP-039-A. No. Researcher Carlson. Are you sure? There seem to be some objects missing from the laboratory, and 2 chimpanzees. SCP-039-A. I'm sure. The chimps left on their own after they killed those guys. Figured out how to open a door, ran off into the desert. Probably died out there, since they still needed food and water. Researcher Carlson. Then why didn't you leave the facility? SCP-039-A. Hey, just because I don't need water doesn't mean I can't have a heat stroke. Didn't need to worry about finding food or anything, so I decided to stick around. Figured somebody would find me eventually. Too bad it was you guys. Researcher Carlson. Do you know anything about any books or research notes that the scientists who operated on you may have had? SCP-039-A shakes its head. Nope. Like I said, I was just a test subject. Researcher Carlson. Interesting. While we're on the subject, how exactly did the champies escape their cages? SCP-039-A. Shrugs. Beats me. Cole probably forgot to lock the cages or something. Researcher Carlson. SCP-039-A. Even smart people make mistakes. Researcher Carlson. I suppose. Note. He's lying. I'm requesting the use of enhanced chemical interrogation techniques. Researcher Carlson. SCP-039-A. You don't believe me, do you? Researcher Carlson. I'll ask the questions. Thanks. SCP-039-A. Will you? Or are you just going to sit there and write? Researcher Carlson. I'll write as long as I want. SCP-039-A. Fine then. Take your time. It's not like I have anywhere else to be anyway. You're just going to put me back in my cell when we're done, right? Researcher Carlson. Right. SCP-039-A removes its hands from the keyboard and leans back with them behind its head. Researcher Carlson finishes writing. Researcher Carlson. Okay, SCP-039-A. Just one more question. SCP-039-A. You really enjoy calling me that, don't you? Makes it easier to forget I'm a person. Researcher Carlson. Are you able to communicate with the monkeys? SCP-039-A. What? Researcher Carlson. The journal we recovered indicates that you may have been able to communicate with them, and the altered chimpanzees, in some way. SCP-039-A. That must be Cole's journal. You know he's an idiot, right? Not to mention a dick. He didn't like me, or the chimps. Researcher Carlson. Are you saying that you can't communicate with other SCP-039 instances? SCP-039-A. I mean, can you communicate with your dog? They're smart animals. Researcher Carlson. Yes, but I can talk to my dog, and he can see me. You and the monkeys can't do either of those things. SCP-039-A hesitates. I'd like to go back to my cell now. SCP-039-A crosses its arms. Researcher Carlson. This interview is not over. SCP-039-A does not respond. Researcher Carlson. You're not going to cooperate, are you? SCP-039-A shakes its head. Researcher Carlson. Fine. But this isn't over. End log. Researcher Carlson's request for chemical interrogation is pending Ethics Committee approval, as SCP-039-A's altered physiology, metabolism, and psychology make the effects of mensthetics and similar drugs on it difficult to predict. Below is a transcript of Researcher Carlson's second interview with SCP-039-A conducted the following day. Begin log. Researcher Carlson. Hello again, SCP-039-A. SCP-039-A does not respond. Researcher Carlson. I'd like to ask you some questions about the procedure that removed your face. SCP-039-A nods. Slowly. Researcher Carlson. First, how was it performed? SCP-039-A. What do you mean? Researcher Carlson. Was it a surgical operation? A Thalmer? Magical ritual? Were you genetically modified? SCP-039-A shrugs. They didn't tell me the specifics, and I was out during the operation. Researcher Carlson. You didn't ask? SCP-039-A shakes head. It's not like I would have understood the science anyway. They just told me it would make me smarter and I wouldn't have to eat anymore, and that I'd go blind, but my hearing would get better, so it wouldn't be so bad. Researcher Carlson. And you agreed to this? SCP-039-A nods. You would have too. Researcher Carlson. What makes you say that? SCP-039-A thinks briefly. Rough estimate. How much money do you spend on food every month? Groceries, restaurants, everything. Researcher Carlson. A couple $100. It varies. SCP-039-A. Now imagine that you still had those $100 every month. That's more than 1,000 a year. What would you buy with that? Something that you want but you don't have right now? Because of your budget? Researcher Carlson. Well, I've been trying to complete my rare coin collection. SCP-039-A. Cool. So just think, if you didn't have to eat, you'd have all those rare coins. Researcher Carlson. Well, yeah, but I like eating. SCP-039-A. Do you? Or is that just your biological need to eat, tricking your brain into enjoying something it doesn't really have a choice about? Researcher Carlson. Of course I like eating. I mean, maybe not always, but when I go to a fancy restaurant or something, I do. SCP-039-A. Okay, fine. Let me put it like this. You want to lose some weight, right? Researcher Carlson. What? Researcher Carlson looks down at his body. SCP-039-A. Just guessing. Most of you people do. Researcher Carlson. Us people? SCP-039-A. People who can afford to eat. Before I got my face off, I only got to eat if I went to a homeless shelter or fished something out of the trash. But you have the opposite problem, don't you? Eating too much. Researcher Carlson. Well, I suppose so. SCP-039-A. Now imagine if you never had to worry about that. If you didn't have to try and fail to exercise self-control when you reach for one more piece of cake or one more deep-fried whatever. Because you can't eat. But that doesn't bother you because you don't want to anyway. Pretty soon after your operation, your body will naturally reach a healthy weight. But you can still build muscle. Heck, I was skinny as a post before you were in my face. Now look at me. Researcher Carlson. I think I'll stick with my diet. SCP-039-A. How about this then? How much time do you spend eating every day? Researcher Carlson. Look, I just want to know more about the procedure. This isn't necessary. SCP-039-A. You wanted to know why I volunteered, didn't you? I'm trying to explain it to you. Or do you not really want to know? Researcher Carlson. Fine. Carry on. SCP-039-A. So, how much time do you spend eating? Researcher Carlson. I don't know. Maybe an hour total. SCP-039-A. And how much time do you spend cooking? Shopping for food, driving back and forth to the place where you shop, bringing in the groceries, putting them away, or when you go to a restaurant, how much time do you waste deciding where to go, driving out there, waiting for your table, waiting to order, waiting for the food, waiting for the check? Then, after you eat, how much time do you spend shitting every day? How much of your life is wasted sitting on a toilet, wiping your own ass, smelling your own shit like an animal? Do you have any idea how much of your short life is wasted fulfilling base biological needs? How much of the stuff you want to do with your life never gets done because you're too busy doing what you have to? Researcher Carlson sighs. I understand that, but I like my face where it is. SCP-039-A shakes its head slowly. Well, maybe if you were in the shoes that I was in, you'd think differently. From where I was, a face was a small price to pay. I don't guess it matters now, though, since I'm in a box. Researcher Carlson. I am sorry about that, but surely you can understand the kind of uproar that a man with no face would cause if we let you wander around in public. SCP-039-A hesitates for several seconds, fingers hovering above the keyboard. SCP-039-A. Did you have any other questions? Researcher Carlson. Well, we're wondering if you've experienced any other psychological changes. The monkeys show much higher cognitive performance than unaltered ones, and we want to know if you've experienced anything similar. SCP-039-A. Definitely. It's a little more complicated than just being smart, though. Researcher Carlson. How so? SCP-039-A. Well, it's all about attention. I can hear better now, with the SCP-039-A gestures at the upper half of its face. But I also listen better, if that makes any sense, because I'm not distracted anymore. I never realized it before, and you probably don't either. I'm not sure anybody can if they still have a face, but people are always distracted, thinking about 1,000 different things, worrying about your job, or lack of one in my case, trying to figure out what you're going to have for dinner, where you're going to sleep, how you're going to get your next fix, whatever that is for you. But I don't have to deal with all that anymore, so I can pay attention. Really pay attention when I'm listening and remember all of it. And when I'm thinking, trying to solve a math problem or something, I can concentrate. Really concentrate. It's like the difference between being sober and being drunk. Researcher Carlson. Speaking of which, the documents we found indicate that you were addicted to drugs before the operation. SCP-039-A. I was a crackhead before they took my face off, but I haven't craved it even a little bit since the operation. Didn't even withdraw. That's interesting to you, I imagine. Researcher Carlson. Yes, it is. Do you know why this is the case? SCP-039-A. Not scientifically. Seemed like Damien and the other guys didn't expect that, but I do know. SCP-039-A pauses briefly. Intrinsically, spiritually, I can feel it, if that makes any sense. Researcher Carlson, can you explain this feeling? SCP-039-A, it's simple, really. It's like what I was talking about with the food. Now that my face is gone, and a whole bunch of my organs too, I don't know which ones exactly, but most of them, I'm cut off from that. Researcher Carlson, from what? SCP-039-A, urges, base instincts, the monkey brain. Before my body craved things, food, water, sex, drugs, booze, I could barely think, really think, the way I do now. But not anymore. When they removed my face, they removed the monkey. Now it's just me in here. SCP-039-A taps his forehead. Just a rational human being in complete control of himself. End log. Item number, SCP-040. Object class, anomalous human. Containment class, active. Hazard rating, yellow. Standard containment policies. 2-person residential module, no amenity restrictions. Access to site library, recreational facilities, cafeteria, and public areas. Supervised. Dietary restriction. Mild peanut allergy. Youth educational curriculum enrollment. Doctors Abernathy, Logan, and Izawa. Bi-weekly psychological review, Dr. Abernathy. Schedule B, experimentation plan. Special containment procedures. SCP-0401-A, 1C, and 1J have been approved to remain in the containment chamber with SCP-040 for purposes of the subject's mental well-being. Security Chief Special Order 3925, redacted. All other entities modified by SCP-040 during testing are to be disposed of after study according to standard biological specimen clearance protocols, as outlined in document CDP-BIO-EN1. Date of birth: 2000. Subject claimed to be 8 years old at DOC. POB: unknown. DOC: redacted, 2008. Height: 111 centimeters. Weight: 20.7 kg. Hair: bright pink. Eyes: green, R, yellow, L, heterochromia, black sclera, L. Other notes: blind in left eye, skin sensitive to burns and easily bruised, hair is brittle and falls out easily. Description: SCP-040 is a human child capable of at-will manipulation of the physical characteristics of living organisms. Modified organisms are collectively referred to as SCP-040-1. Modifications are primarily cosmetic, ranging from simple color and pattern changes to more involved shifts in bodily form and structure. The creation of new specialized organs is possible, but appears to be the limit of SCP-040's ability, and currently has a 66% failure rate in testing. Modifications are limited to what would be physically possible, regardless of the probability of such a feature naturally arising. For example, while SCP-040 can grant an organism wings that does not naturally possess them, they will not permit the creature to fly without meeting other physical requirements. SCP-040-1 undergo behavior shifts as part of the modification process, acting with extreme loyalty to SCP-040 regardless of prior association. SCP-040's anomalous property requires significant focus and time to enact and causes intense headaches and nausea when performed for more than a few minutes at a time. The effect becomes increasingly unreliable and inaccurate the smaller the modifications or more complex the changes are. SCP-040 is incapable of altering microscopic organisms and has a great difficulty in altering plant life. Dead organic matter may also be used, but must be used in conjunction with a living organism. Instances of SCP-040-1 cannot be modified more than once, though it is currently unknown if this is a hard limit of SCP-040's properties or from a lack of mastery over them. SCP-040's emotional state is within acceptable boundaries for an individual of its age group, counting for the effects of prolonged containment and parental separation. Subject's intelligence is slightly above average for its age group, behavior is generally cooperative. SCP-040 acclimatized quickly to containment and responded well to the initial orientation and socialization programs. SCP-040 responds to the name 40 and does not appear to have any other given or chosen personal name. Recovery summary. Subject was taken into custody on redacted 2008 as part of the raid on the Keys to the Kingdom Christian Charter School for Gifted Youth in Redacted, Colorado. The raid's primary objective being the capture or execution of Redacted, a former CIA operative who had previously worked alongside Foundation intermediaries as part of the Project Black Book, Project Similodon, and Operation Stargate from 1967 to 1971, was successful. Redacted was terminated on site and disposed of without incident. Of the 15 children recovered from the facility, SCP-040 was the only one to demonstrate anomalous properties. The others were administered anesthetics and placed in Foundation-observed foster care. Interviews with staff at the school revealed that they were unaware of Redacted's prior history or any connection with Foundation operations. They were administered anesthetics and put under a 6-month communications monitor. No relapses were recorded. See Operation Tattletale Worm After Action Report for complete event record. Addendum 01. SCP-040 is currently allowed custody of the following SCP-0401 instances. SCP-0401-A, symbiotic organism capable of changing size, shape, color, and texture in reaction to its environment. Subject serves as outer clothing similar to a jacket or sweater and absorbs nutrients from SCP-040's bloodstream. Subject was recovered alongside SCP-040, and genetic testing reveals that the subject shares the majority of its genetic makeup with the common house cat. SCP-0401-C, spherical organism capable of flight by means of rubbery blades filled with lighter-than-air gas mixture. Entity has 11 limbs terminating in opposable digits, and a complex respiratory system capable of replicating a wide variety of musical patterns. SCP-0401-J, quadrupedal organism covered in a thick coat of pink and blue fur. Entity has no eyes, a broad mouth with blunt teeth, and is capable of climbing up vertical surfaces. Occasionally used by SCP-040 as a means of transport. Addendum 02. The following interview expert is dated Redacted 2008, shortly after SCP-040's initial containment and orientation sessions. Dr. Abernathy. Good morning, 40. SCP-040. Good morning, Miss Abernathy. Dr. Abernathy. Sounds like you're getting over your cold. SCP-040. Dr. Abernathy. I'm glad. Can I ask you a few questions before we start with today's lesson? SCP-040. Yeah. Dr. Abernathy. Can you tell me about your parents? SCP-040. Mr. Green said that I don't have any. Dr. Abernathy. Can you tell me about Mr. Green then? SCP-040. He was nice, but he wasn't very good at talking. He would always talk like this. But he wasn't there a lot of the time. Most of the time it was the nurses looking after us. Dr. Abernathy. And what did they do for you? SCP-040. They played game with us and teach us things, and sometimes they would make us wear these dumb helmets and sit quiet for a long time. Sometimes they'd put a movie on for us if we behaved, but if we were bad, they would lock us in our rooms. Dr. Abernathy. Can you tell me anything else? SCP-040. They always served us peas for dinner, and I hate peas, so I gave mine to 5 because she liked peas, but I think green beans are better. Addendum 03, Redacted 2009. SCP-040 successfully reanimated a deceased human body during testing using 3 specimens of brown rat as the required living component. Resultant subject retained no memories of previous life and was judged to be of the approximate mental capacity of a human toddler. SCP-040 was highly distressed by the event and refused further testing for the next 3 weeks. Well, if you've made it this far, you've finished the video. Hi, welcome to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed, and as always, I will see you guys with part 5, which will be covering 41 to 50. Yeah, we're making our way slowly through. I'm actually kind of excited. The longer we get into this, the better the stories seem to get, but still, I will have to say my favorite is 23, but that's just me personally. Anyways, as always, if you guys did enjoy this one, please like and subscribe. It helps a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Alright, bye-bye!